Alright, so I've been kind of itching to make this video. Itching and not itching to make this video because it's the same tired talk that I keep having to, give black people all the time. And, I have my days where I'm like, fuck it. Why bother? Right? But then I realize nobody else is doing it. You can go over YouTube a million times over, and you will find very few videos of black men actually advocating for black people to be armed. Who are as Amos Wilson would say, the middle of the roaders. People that got families, people that got jobs and houses, and, they're not militant, they're not hotep. They're not magical. They're not super religious and spiritual to the point of, just insane pacificity, where they won't respond to anything. Anybody can just come in and knock them over the head and do whatever they want with them. And they'll sit there and they'll say, oh, baby, what would Jesus do? I forgive and I forget and, all that, they can kill me and I'll only grow stronger in heaven. That type of slave shit. It just seems like you never get any real sensible black people talking about armed self-defense. So we got this crazy ass white guy who was surprisingly married to a black woman, had a biracial kid, but in any event, I think he was already screwy, and then on top of that, all the rhetoric that you hear in the media, all the identity politics, got to him. All that, the whole world is against white men, and, the NFL is against white men, and Colin Kaepernick taking a knee is against white men and everything. That shit has got white men all fucked up in the head, in my opinion. Right? Especially your poor, working class white men who don't feel, the privileges of whiteness like that. They're not at the top of the food chain and whatnot. So it's very easy for them to make them feel that they're under attack because they've always been under attack by the white elite. But they don't see it that way. They only see the world in black and white. They don't see the world along class lines. They think that they're in the same club as Donald Trump and all his other millionaire and billionaire friends. That game has been played. That hustle has been going on for a very long time. I don't think, your average white man is going to snap out of it. So, it is what it is. We got to deal with it. Okay. I'm not going to, sit around and try to waste my breath, trying to explain history to a bunch of motherfuckers that'll sit there and talk about, oh, there's fake news. Everything you're saying is fake news. I don't have time for that shit. Okay. They're idiots. They're assholes. This is what you got to deal with. Protect yourself and be vigilant. And, kind of walk around with that motherfucker don't try it type of attitude because you are prepared to deal with whatever situation you got to deal with. And in some situations, we might take an L. You might get arrested and you might, go to jail or whatever. But, hey, you'll be alive. Right? But see, the thing is part of the reason why black people need the collective support of other black people when it comes to guns and the Second Amendment is because I noticed that, if a brother gets jammed up with the Second Amendment, right, because of the unfair application of the laws, a lot of black people who run around, these black politicians that run around and they're anti Second Amendment, they're pro gun control. They don't want to touch anything that has to do with a black man exercising their right. This is why I'm saying these people are problematic. People like this, I don't even know if he won the race or not, the Governor Gillum or soon to be Governor Gillum of Florida. Black politicians like that are a fucking problem for black people. But black people, they think that these people are their saviors. They're not your saviors. Because when you go out there and you got to defend yourself and then, stand your ground somehow strangely doesn't apply to your situation and circumstance, they're not going to come to your aid and say, wait a minute, this is racist. They're not going to come to your aid. They're going to be like, well, they're going to act just like a white supremacist would. Well, he shouldn't have had a gun anyway. That's how they're going to act. So in my book, They're no different than the white supremacists that run around and don't want black people to be armed, obviously. They're no different. The outcome is the same, right? So it's like you definitely got to get more black people on board, when it comes to, Second Amendment rights and black people being able to defend themselves. I see black people jumping up and down, piss shitting and farting about Kavanaugh being, the Supreme Court justice, right? And they're so worried about, affirmative action and all this other shit when you got black people that are not applying to college and graduate school and professional school in the numbers that they should, right? It's not like there's whole lines of us kicking down the doors of universities trying to get in, but I'm just saying we're more focused on that than we are actually focused on the immediacy of self-preservation. I mean, that's immediate. Like you want to talk about, why is it you can see further down the line when it comes to shit like affirmative action, which isn't even enforced? You know what I'm saying? It's not even like something that's protected and it's heavily enforced, right? You can see, we need to preserve this for the next 100 years. But when it comes to your Second Amendment rights and black people being able to defend themselves in the nation of their former oppressors, you can't see 100 years into the future when it comes to that shit. I've already said this before. Black people are an inconvenient population. That is what we are. We are not needed. Okay, well, once slavery and Jim Crow were over, it was like, okay, what do we do with the niggas? So I just don't understand black people when it comes to this whole Second Amendment issue. The guy tried to walk into a church and try to do another Dylon Roof thing, and all they had was locked doors and cameras. Now, luckily for them, the doors were locked. But as a clip that I was watching from the Advice show, the deacon, or I believe it was the deacon, he was basically saying, yeah, but we got a lot of constituents that'll just sit there and open up the doors and let anybody in. Probably a black woman open up the doors and, oh baby, you here to be saved by Jesus? And just open the doors right up, because, that's how a lot of Christian women want to act. It's all about saving people, especially the older black women, because their salvation is Jesus, and Jesus is their new boyfriend and all the other stuff, right? So they're gonna let anybody in the church because they think that who else would come to a church other than someone seeking help and assistance, and oh my God, me helping them will give me bonus points in a Mario 1-up so that I can get into the pearly gates of heaven and I can meet white Jesus, right? It's like that's what they think. They don't. This is my issue with people who don't think negatively. People say I'm too negative. People who don't think negatively are very naive about the evils of the world. They're very naive that shit can go down anytime, anywhere. They're just very naive about that fact. They think that shit can't happen. I know, because my mother is like that. She thinks shit can't happen. And I find that there's a lot of black men, when they're older and they got to take care of their mother, their mothers are very, they want their independence. So the mothers want to live by themselves. The father usually dies early. The mother's by herself, or maybe the parents are separated, and something happens and the son will say, Mom, I think you should get a gun. What does the mother say? Oh, baby, I don't need to get a gun. I got white Jesus. I'm like, oh my God. I hear that narrative so often that there's this aversion that the women have away from guns. And this is older black women. Then when you get to the younger black women, we usually get into those conversations of all black men do is rape and pillage black women. I'm like, okay, get a gun. No, I don't believe in guns. I believe in voting Democrat because we need more gun control. Do you actually even know how hard it is to get a gun in your state? Right? Because a lot of people that I talk to, they live in New York, they live in New Jersey, right? They live in Maryland, right? These are very difficult states to get firearms. And they act like it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, have you gone through the process? No. And then you get on the male side, you get all these sort of beta males, which in my opinion, they kind of have, women's mentality on a lot of things. They're non-confrontational, non-aggressive. They're everything that black women say that they don't like about so-called lames, and why they prefer bad boys and thugs and street dudes and everything else, because these men lack aggression. And I got to admit, they lack aggression. I wouldn't feel safe if I was with them, because their response is no different than a woman. But they'll get up there and they'll talk about, oh, we need to protect our black women, and we need to do this and do that, and the black woman, and it's just a shame at how black men don't protect the black woman. They be the last one in line if some shit were to go down. They be the last one to throw a punch. They be the last one to put themselves in between, her and, whoever's accosting her. But they get up on the mic real quick and talk about, manhood, like they know anything about manhood, but they don't have any level of aggression in their bone. This is part of the reason why, in my opinion, I think women like guys to be a little bit on the crazy side, a little bit neurotic, a little bit jumpy, because it's the only way to really gauge whether a man is actually going to act. Is he a doer or is he just a talker? You know what I'm saying? If some shit were to go down, is he gonna do, like, when you get that squirt of adrenaline, are you gonna get up and do something, or are you just gonna stand there and just not do anything? You talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, you're not gonna do anything. Not when it comes to physical violence. Not physical violence. And the reality is as a man, you're probably gonna come across physical violence a couple times in your lifetime. Hopefully you don't come across it at all, but I'm saying chances are you might come across it a couple times, and you got to be ready to deal with that situation. You got to have the heart to deal with that situation. And I don't see that in a lot of black men, especially older black men who like to sit up in the church all day and praise white Jesus. I don't see that in them. I didn't hear nothing in them interviews about, we got some brothers, that are going to be standing outside with some rifles to make sure this type of shit doesn't happen. And I'm saying these are in pro-gun states. So I'm like, what is your excuse? You can't do that shit in Jersey. You can't do it in New York, right? What's your excuse? It don't take nothing to go down to your local gun shop and buy an AR-15 for $500 and have people standing outside like, motherfucker, don't try it. Somebody comes up and they try to do some Dylan Roof shit. They say, well, shit, not that church. You see them two black men out there with them M&P 15 sports? Fuck that shit. I'm gonna keep it moving. Shit, that's going to cut into my body count. I might only get 3 shots off before they put me down. I'll go to another church or go find me a synagogue, right? I Googled the other night. I typed it. I was like, typing the shit up, right? I Googled armed black men outside of church, right? I didn't find a single picture. Not one. Not a one. After the Dylan Roof shooting, 11 churches were burned throughout the South. 11 black churches were burned down to the ground throughout the South after Dylan Roof went on his little, murderous rampage, right? And yet I can't find a single picture of an armed black man, let alone 2. I would prefer 2. A armed black man standing outside of a church as the church is taking place and doing its whole thing, right? Not even a police car sitting outside of a black church. I don't know how strong your faith is, but it seems like black people feel like, oh, well, if we do something right, you hear all this faith without works is dead. You hear that all the time, but yet I don't see any precautionary steps other than cameras and locking the door as it pertains to what if some shit goes down. It's like y'all want to go the most passive route possible and y'all call yourselves Christians. Crazy thing is, right, so y'all want to subscribe to this slave master religion. Fine, fuck it, let's go with that. Subscribe to the slave master religion, okay? Even God had archangels, and archangels have weapons. Go Google an image of an archangel. What is in the archangel's hand? A sword. Fighting demons, right? So I don't know where you get this idea that God is this pacifist and shit. All the cities God done destroyed, all the fucking lightning bolts, the floods, the locusts, killing your firstborn and shit, and you can't even bust a grape in a fruit fight? Come on, man. Shit don't make no goddamn sense, man. It makes no sense at all. And the thing is I know professional black men out here who, they'll pull you to the side. They'll be like, yo, Pete, man, I feel what you're saying on the gun tip, man. You know, I got mine, though. Right? But they talk about how it's very, they can't talk about it in their family. It's very taboo in their family. Coleon Noir has talked about this in many of the videos that he has done and produced. You know, where it's like really taboo to be a black man and be armed and have guns, or even be into guns, be a gun enthusiast, which is typically what happens when you, get into guns. You start off, you just want the most basic thing. Ooh, make sure it has a safety. It's got to have a safety because, I don't want to shoot myself in the leg, right? And then after you get comfortable with the gun, you're like, oh, man, I don't want a safety, man. Shit, what if I forget to throw it off? You know what I mean? So then you don't want the guns with the safety. So then you go buy another gun. Then you want different calibers. So then you buy different calibers, right? Then you want it to be more customizable or something like that. So then you get the one with the optic red dot on top of it, or the RMR or whatever, right? And so then you start getting into target shooting and whatnot, and race guns and whatnot, and they got the lightning cuts on it and everything, right? So you start getting more personalized as you become more proficient with the weapon. And then at the end of it all, you end up going back to that basic ass Glock 19, 15 round capacity. No thrills, no nothing. Got the nice little smile on your barrel, and that's what you do. And that's pretty much where we are. With the people who exercise, who participate in the Second Amendment rights, man. But there's you can find it when you look at the videos online. When you look at a lot of the videos that are online from black men, I mean, they're the only ones that are putting up videos. Black men who have legally purchased and own firearms, and do gun reviews. Those are the type of brothers that I'm talking about. The ones that are, they're just like everybody else. They're just like all the white men out here who own firearms and whatnot, and they have firearms for their own personal self-protection, right? But unfortunately, it seems like the only black men in the community that, have firearms or engage in firearms use, on a visible scale are Ray and Pookie. And I've heard people say like Ray and Pookie going to do something and get shit done if something were to go. Ray and Pookie ain't going to do shit. Okay? Ray and Pookie ain't going to do shit with the freaking broken guns that they got, the guns with the broken safety, the guns that are poorly maintained, the guns that they don't even know how to shoot because they're illegal, so it's not like they can go to the gun range and perfect their aim. You still got people running around shooting the gun sideways, not hitting the damn thing. I just had a black man recently tell me, they were like, man, I went to the range, basically with another friend of his. He's like, I went to the range, man. Man, I didn't know it was that hard to shoot a damn pistol. I was like, I started laughing, and I was like, what do you mean it was hard to shoot? He was like, man, that shit is hard to shoot. He's like, the target's only 7 feet away or 7 yards away, and he couldn't hit. Like, he thought he was just going, it was going to be like, Duck Hunt for Nintendo or something. He figured that he would just, shoot little holes out the target, knock out the center of the target. I'm like, nah, some serious trigger control and recoil management. He said every time he pulled the trigger, the gun was like flying out of his hand. He couldn't even gauge when the gun was going to go off. So he said he hit the ceiling one time when he shot the damn thing. I was like, yeah, you got to practice. It's not easy. Now you want to know. Now you know why people want to have an AR-15, because you can shoulder the damn thing. You know, if somebody uses an AR-15 and they shoulder it, you know, it makes it very easy, you know, for them to use it as a target. It's very easy. I mean, to, you know, basically aim and whatnot, and keep the firearm steady, right? But handguns, it's a different story. The only reason handguns are used is because they're small enough to be concealed. They're concealable. So because they're concealable, you can have it on your person. But anybody who knows ballistics of firearms knows that handguns are anemic. They don't cause as much damage as people think that they cause. That's why you can get 50 Cent getting shot 9 times and he's still alive. Because they're anemic. All the gunpowder that you got is in that little small ass shell to push a 115 grain bullet down a barrel, or 230 grain bullet down a barrel, only moving at 830 meters per second, or with the 9mm just over 1,000 meters per second. You know, that's all you have. And unless you hit a vital organ or something like that, like, the person is not going to be incapacitated. Now you got the fibs factor, fuck, I've been shot factor, you know, where somebody, you know, you hit them once and they're like, oh shit, I've been shot, and then they flee and everything else like that. But that doesn't always happen. You know, it depends on how determined the person is to try to get you or whatever they're trying to do, and you got to put enough holes in them to make them stop. So unless you hit the heart, unless you hit a major vessel, unless you hit the central nervous system, they're still going to be coming at you, depending on how determined they are. And then on top of the fact that you got the reality that most people aren't as proficient as guns as they think. I mean, hell, cops, you know, they'll shoot at a person and shoot, you know, 47 times and only 3 of the bullets hit their target. And that's cops. So what do you think is going to happen with a civilian population that doesn't go to the range that often, or doesn't practice that often? You're going to need more bullets. Isn't that funny how, like, you know, when cops go off and they shoot a suspect, you know, cops officer shot 47 rounds, 3 of them killing the suspect, right? But then, you know, you end up with these mass shooters and it's like all their aim is on point, you know? It's like the suspect shot 13 times, killing 11 people. It's like, what? Damn, like, what was he like? The guy in, what was that movie called? The movie where the guy had the microchip in his neck and shit like that. You know, just like he's just ran into the church with the Titanfall smart pistol or some shit like that. You're like, damn, 13 shots, 11 kills. Like, what the hell? Damn. You know? You start hearing the damn Halo shit in the background. Double kill, triple kill, Kilimanjaro. You know, like, it's just crazy. But anyway, I don't know. I just don't know what like, why we process the world the way that we process the world. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know why, you know, we don't recognize the dangers that surround us and take the proper steps. Nowhere else on planet Earth are black people able to arm themselves and defend themselves against any threat, both those foreign and domestic, meaning both those in the black community and outside the black community. Nowhere else on planet Earth. Black people don't even manufacture their own weapons. And here you are in America. You all want to talk about exercising your right to vote, but you don't have the same energy when it comes to exercising your right to self-defense and self-preservation in the Second Amendment. That's not a right you seem to value, right? When it comes to you getting arrested, you know, you need to read me my Miranda rights. When it comes to you sitting up in court, I plead the Fifth, Your Honor. You know what I mean? When you get pulled over, I do not consent to unlawful search and seizures, officer, Fourth Amendment, right? You want to invoke all your amendment rights, right? When you hop on the internet, it's First Amendment rights, free speech. When you writing blogs, for First Amendment rights, free speech. As soon as you get to the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, we don't like the Second Amendment. We don't want to exercise that. But you want to exercise everything else, right? You want to talk about all your other amendments, right? 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, right? You want to talk about all that, but when it comes to your Second Amendment rights, black people are like ghosts. They don't know where to be seen. You know? And it needs the whole community's support. Not just another scenario where it's like the Black Panthers and they go out there armed by Richard Aoki, freaking FBI agent, and used, as a way to scare white folks. Nah, this is about self-preservation. This isn't about, all that open carry bullshit and showing up at a Starbucks talking about, can I have a latte with an AR-15 strapped to your back? Stupid. It's not what I'm talking about. Nobody needs to know what the fuck you got. But black people should know that there's people in the community who hold. They should know. This should be at least a handful of people sitting up in the church. And I know that I've seen articles, there's black women who bring their little revolver to the church and they ain't playing that shit. It ain't all black women, it ain't all black men. But culturally speaking, it's enough of us where this is a goddamn problem. Because we just don't seem to take this whole situation seriously. Those people that got shot at the Kroger's, they went to the goddamn supermarket. That's all they were doing. Going to the supermarket. Like I said, shit can go down any place, anywhere. Or anytime, anywhere. This whole black people got this notion. I know a lot of black people, oh, well, if I don't go to that side of town, I'm gonna be good. Thinking like white people. Like, no. You're like Jewish people. You are a part of a population in this country that is not liked. You are a target. And most black people are soft targets, especially in the Northeast, because black people go out here, they want to vote Democrat, and then the Democrats create all these sort of gun laws that specifically are designed to keep guns out of the hands of black people. So you can't defend yourself in your community, and you can't defend yourself against crazies and white supremacists like this dude. This has nothing to do with concealed carry. Nothing to do with concealed carry. Because if a person has a gun, right? Like if a person has a firearm, there's nothing stopping them from going out there and deciding that they want to shoot the place up. If they're gonna kill somebody, you think they give a fuck whether they got a concealed carry permit or not, and they stick it in their coat pocket and then go into a supermarket and decide, I'm gonna kill him and wait till he turns his back to me and then blow his head off. Do you think they give a shit? No. So this whole attitude, like, we don't want people walking around with guns, that still doesn't stop people from actually possessing guns. It's like people, they miss that point. And if you have like a situation where people can carry concealed guns, again, in places, there's places all across the country where people carry guns and shit does not pop off like that. People are like, hey, let's de-escalate this because this could get serious real quick. Not to mention, if you violate or you misuse a firearm, if you brandish a weapon inappropriately, you go to jail. You get locked up. It's just that simple. You lose that right. If you can't act like a responsible adult, you lose that right. Plain and simple. And all that common sense should be, a part of when you're talking about firearms ownership. That's common sense. But you don't deny people access to the right, thinking that you're stopping things, preemptively. You're not stopping shit. You can't legislate morality. And that's constantly what the left tries to do, is legislate morality. Oh, if I take your car away, you won't be able to speed. Oh, if I make sure that you don't have a big gulp, then you won't get diabetes. Right? They start becoming the thought police. It's like goddamn Minority Report. Oh, can't make sure you can't have this. It's literally like a kid in a room with toys, and then like a parent comes in and starts taking everything away because they start identifying how dangerous oh my God, he's playing with a G.I. Joe action figure. What if he chokes on it? Take it away. That's the left. That's the Democrats that you vote for. And you know who they police the most? You know who they babysit the most? That's right, your black ass. Because they have no faith in you acting and behaving as responsible adults. That should be more offensive to you than anything else. But that doesn't seem to offend black people. Black people only get offended, when after the fact. You know, they get offended, you know, when something happens to them or a name is thrown at them. But they don't get offended at the low-key subtle racism that's not so overt, where laws are being implemented that basically say, well, we don't want niggas to have access to this, without saying we don't want niggas to have access to this. But ultimately, it culminates to niggas not going to have access to this. And that doesn't offend black people. It's like they don't see it. Personally, I think the black community is just too matriarchal in terms of, you know, firearms ownership. I feel like there's a lot of black men who, you know, I mean, we're not, you know, the whole building and maintaining thing, right? So there's no real sense of, you know, protecting, you know, your community or your environment. So that, like, that's not baked into our culture. But I'm like, fuck it. If that's not baked into the culture, then I'm like, well, what about individual self-preservation? I mean, damn. You know, regardless of the fact that whether there's an intact, thriving black community or not, you should still want to be able to protect yourself. You know, because this shit is random. Like, that's how it's going to happen. It's not going to be a bunch of, you know, 100 tiki torch motherfuckers showing up at your door, burning crosses on your lawn and shit. That's the chances of that happening is far much slimmer than a situation where, you know, it's some random shit. Like, you're just sitting in a bar somewhere and some white person kicks in the door and just starts randomly shooting. That's more likely to happen. You know, or you're sitting in church and somebody starts shooting through the windows. That's more likely to happen. Just random shit. And don't get it twisted. Just having a firearm on your person may not save you from a situation like that, but it beats nothing at all. It beats just, you know, ending up in a situation where the person's literally walking down the aisle picking people off as they cower in the corner or cower between the church benches. It's way better than that. You know, I just don't understand the pacifism. I mean, it's like I look at this shit and I'm saying to myself, it's like the women are passive, and then the women raise boys to be passive. And then, you know, it's like the women are passive because the men didn't protect them. So then they're scared of everything, right? So you got passive women because their fathers weren't strong enough or whatever. And I'm like, are we just a group of passive ass people? Because if that's the case, if it's in our DNA, well, then that explains how we got put on them on the Amistad. That explains how we got put on them slave ships. Because, you know, it's like we just don't have that killer instinct in us. And what really pisses me off is, oh, we got killer instinct when it comes to each other. But when it comes to the threats outside of the community, oh no. Massa said we don't need no guns. That really burns me up. That shit really pisses me off. You know, the way that we are, the way that we react, the way that we respond, you know, to this stuff. We don't even respond. We just sit there with our hands folded saying, well, this was tragic, but I hope nothing happens next time. I hope things don't get worse. I hope that we'll be all right. I get so sick of that when it comes to black people. I don't know what to do. You know, and then, you know, had this man actually went in that church and shot the people up, I guarantee you there'll be some black people sitting around talking about, I'm a Christian, I'll forgive and I'll forgets. Right? I forgives, right? Because I'm a Christian, right? They be up there talking that bullshit with your slave religion that was designed to pacify your ass, that they stole from the Egyptians in the Book of the Dead. For all you people out here who want to talk about, you know, how original man status you are and how hotepped out you are. You don't even know where the damn religions that you follow are coming from. Shit is straight up Book of the Dead. 3-day resurrection, Jesus Christ, winter solstice, all that shit. Hell, most of the shit that's even in Christmas and Christianity ain't got a goddamn thing to do with even that region of the world. What the fuck a Christmas tree got to do with Jesus if Jesus is supposed to be born in a manger and shit? You need to look at the correlation and the relationship between the Egyptian sun god Horus and Jesus. But I know y'all don't do your homework. You need to look at the 3-day resurrection and the winter solstice. And the tilt of the earth and shit not. And why Jesus is Pisces and procession and all that other stuff. But y'all don't look at that stuff. Running around following a bunch of hocus pocus. And letting that be your orientation to your existence on this earth. And you're not doing a damn thing to preserve the continuation of your life and your legacy and your culture or your heritage or whatever. I mean, it makes me not value the black community. Like, it's like I'm already on the fence with valuing the black community. It makes me value the black community even less. Because it's like, y'all don't even take self-preservation seriously. I mean, how do you value something that you don't seek to preserve? How do you do that? You know what I mean? It's like the people that build like black. I look at black people as people who build sand castles right where the water breaks. I'm like, why are you going to build the sand castle there? The ocean is just going to wash it away when it becomes high tide again. Why don't you back it up and build it closer to, where the reeds are growing, right? So it can stay there for a couple of days or at least until the next thunderstorm or whatever. No, we're going to build it right where the water breaks. I'm like, okay, so it's immediately going to get washed away. Yes, and you should help me build this castle. I'm not helping you build shit. Because I ain't gonna waste my time as soon as you dump over a bucket of freaking sand, it's gonna get washed away and whatnot. And we're gonna be sitting here in a slushy mud, sand and water mud, pile. I'm like, fuck you. I just, it's this goddamn religion. I swear to God, it's this damn religion. I swear to Hotep. That's what I gotta learn to say. I swear to Hotep. It's this damn religion. Damn. Just got us out here passive. We don't believe in violence. Everybody believe in being violent with us. What you mean you don't believe in violence? Black people are perfectly okay being violent to each other. What you mean you don't believe in violence? Either y'all scared or y'all pussy. It's one of the two. Like it just gets on my nerves. But there's a handful of us out there, that we don't play that shit. Hell, I even turned my own brother around on this subject. Even he's talking. He's like, I didn't agree with the firearm stuff before, but now looking at where shit is going, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, told you. Because these motherfuckers out here are crazy and they're emboldened. And that's the randomness of it. At least with Ray Ray and Pookie, it's like, if I'm not in the hood and, fucking with drug dealers or buying drugs or anything, I really don't have to worry about that too much. You might get your occasional carjacking here and there if you're on the wrong side of town or something like that. Or your occasional street jacking, again, if you're on the wrong side of town, because, it's poverty-driven crime. It's not a hate crime. It's not, I don't even know you, but I hate you, so I must kill you. And yeah, you got criminals that they may try to rob you and end up killing you anyway just because, they're just fucked up like that. But there's a little something more to when you just end up with, you go to the supermarket so that you can get a couple slices of, some Swiss cheese or something like that, and you grab the ticket and you standing there waiting in line and somebody walks up behind you with a gun and blows the back of your head off and then stands over your body and empties the magazine. That's a little bit different. So I don't know how many more times this shit gotta happen. The Dylon Roof, the freaking IHOP place, this Kroger dude, right? I don't know how many more times, this sort of, random acts of violence have to happen for black people to wake up. I say the same thing about the Jewish people in the synagogue and whatnot. At least with them, since there's a lot of Jewish lawyers and there's a lot of Jewish judges and everything, it don't take nothing for them to have the police officers who aren't Jewish to show up to protect their synagogues. I bet you if I was to go to any of the local synagogues, that even right now there would be a police officer outside. Not to mention that I already know for a fact that they changed some of the rules in the synagogues where like you can't just walk in the building anymore. Like you gotta have like ID and you gotta be buzzed in. Like their shit, they got their shit on lock. Their shit is not, I don't know what they were doing over there in Pittsburgh, but I can tell you that in the tri-state area, they got that shit on lock. Because I actually got off the phone talking to a Jewish person I know about that shit, and they said, "Nah, you can't just walk in there." I was like, "What do you mean you just can't walk in there?" They're like, "Nah, you gotta have an ID, or if you don't have an ID, if you're a guest, you have to be signed in, and I think they gotta, depending on what day it is, or if they have an event there, like you have to have somebody vouch for you in order for you to come in and be a part of it. Like you just can't walk in there anymore." It used to be like that when they didn't have to worry about it. They thought they didn't have to worry about it, but some Jewish community centers, they took precautions. So with black people, we just get it all twisted. And I'm saying again on multiple fronts, dealing with Ray Ray and Pookie, dealing with random white supremacists, right? There's just not a lot of support about that, around the guns. And then we go out here and then we want to get on Kavanaugh and cry about Kavanaugh. I'm like, how can you be a Second Amendment advocate and you don't support those that support the preservation of the right that allows you to be able to defend yourself? I don't understand that. And I'm saying this as somebody coming from a state that is virtually gutted all of the freedoms when it comes to the Second Amendment. It's damn near like California. 10-round magazine limits and I guarantee they're just gonna give it a couple more years. They're gonna say we need an assault weapons ban. You can only have one feature on your AR-15, and we believe that you should have a fixed box magazine. But I believe that Kavanaugh's gonna go in there and he's gonna gut everything. Him and Clarence Thomas, the main ones, they're gonna gut that bitch, and I'm happy about that. The Second Amendment is about accessibility. When you live in a free society, yeah, somebody can just go out there and do some wild shit. They can. You live in a free society. Where you got that balance between the power of the people and the power of the government. Look at who's president. You know what I'm saying? You got Donald Trump as president. You got an asshole as president. Don't tell me about what can't possibly happen further down the road. When you got a man that's this asshole like that. The only reason he can't just do whatever the fuck he wants to do is because the quote-unquote founding fathers were smart enough to put some checks and balances on the system. But if this was North Korea, you know how many people would already be dead? If this was China, you know how many people would already be dead? That's why they put the Second Amendment in there. And I know it wasn't supposed to apply to black people, but I'm saying it does apply to black people now. So shut the fuck up and run with it. Damn. The hell is wrong with y'all? It's just like that's why this shit is there. Because they said, oh, what if we have an asshole in there? And they made it so that you can't just change the Constitution all willy-nilly. People really want a gun control. Yeah, okay, well, why don't you just create another amendment so that you can nullify the Second Amendment? You know how hard that is to do? You got to get 2/3 of the Senate, 2/3 of the Congress. Then you got to get 2/3 of the states, and you got to get it signed off on. Like, please. They know they can't do that. They know that the nation is culturally divided on that. But right now, you got certain states that are violating people's rights and making it extremely difficult for them to be able to defend themselves. If you live in a bad neighborhood in New York, if you live in a bad section, in New Jersey or DC, you really can't. Or actually, DC, they changed the laws recently, but I'm saying, previously you couldn't defend yourself. You say, hey, I just want to have a handgun. I live in a bad area. I come home late at night. No, sorry, you can't do that. Why? Because we don't want people having guns. I'm not the one you worried about. Oh, sorry, we don't want people having guns because, what if you might go out there and shoot somebody? We don't want to have people having access to guns. I'm like, and y'all vote for this shit. And you think that they're doing great and wonderful things. Meanwhile, Pookie, he goes into an alley and pops the fucking trunk, based on a bunch of guns that are being shipped up from Georgia, and then he grabs whatever he wants, and then next thing you know, you coming off from your late night shift and walking back to your, apartment or your row home or whatever, and next thing you know, you got a gun in your face, motherfucker talking about run your shit, nigga. What are you gonna do? Run your shit. Exactly. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's my video. SWP out.